Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. Welcome back to the channel here. I apologize for the hiatus for the last week or so. I was out of town, and future reference, if you're ever curious, I did send out an update here through our community section on the homepage for my my YouTube. And obviously, if you're part of my community in our Discord, you would have known that I've been gone for a little while too. But again, apologize for that. But what we're going to do is take a look here at some important stuff here for Bitcoin. It's actually really something I talked about previously about this descending trend and how we keep retesting these levels and the fact that we still haven't broken through from that range yet. Okay, so descending trend, still our friend in a sense if you are considering, the fact that the price is continuing lower, right? So again, we just got to recognize that, and that is running concurrent, if I recall correctly, with the 50-day SMA, which is a very standard indicator here, letting us know that we are getting rejected by that level. If we break above the 50, we'll be in much better shape. Okay, so keep in mind we still got the 200 traveling above the price action at 28,000. That'll be a key level resistance. I wanted to short closer to 28,000, but never quite got that high. And since I was traveling yesterday, we did miss on some opportunities. But you got to recognize it's better not to force a trade and to be on the sidelines than it is to kind of get stuck in a bad trade, right? So I'm not upset with missing that short. That happens all the time, but it's okay. We'll go ahead and catch some potential longs here. We'll see if that is a possibility and where we're at here roughly. So cool stuff here. We'll jump on over to High Block Capital here, just kind of to start the show here, kind of talk a little bit about liquidation levels. We got a lot of liquidation levels here. In other words, for the most part, the price does come down to this level. We'll see the price essentially continue a lot lower. In other words, 25,500 is that current level where we see a lot of liquidation accumulating based on longs, likely at the current price point or higher with their liquidation levels there. That's probably somewhere in the range of 10 to 20x leverage, puts you at that rough estimate about 25.5. Okay. We can see here as well that we are starting to see more longs in the last couple of days. Well, correction, leading into the last couple of days. Where we've seen kind of this plateau, and we're starting to see a little bit more shorts getting active here, right? Again, this is an aggregated amount of short positions available across multiple exchanges, right? So we're just kind of seeing it with a bird's eye view here that the amount of longs and shorts is starting to average itself out, okay? And that's a good sign. We can also see here too with whales are a little bit more active here today with the price selling off, big surprise. They tend to be a little less active when the price goes sideways and down. So again, at this point here, we can see our fear and greed index is effectively starting to balance itself out with that intermediate scenario there where it's not super high, super low. It's kind of right in the middle, which is pretty standard. So there's not a lot of fear in the market right now, but there's not a lot of greed either where people are trying to just take a bunch of long positions, right? That wonderful FOMC recently definitely changed things a little bit for us here with that anticipation of inflation in the distant future and near future. All right, so let's talk about long positions here. This is essentially the open interest long positions. We see the most amount of longs at 26,400. Now I'll show you on the charts what that is. That's basically a key level support. That's close to that 0.5 Fibonacci retracement level that we're starting to see that bounce off of. Okay, and if we take a look at shorts too, and then again, keep in mind this is just in the last 12 hours, we see some shorts underwater right here, also hedged about 26,400. So try not to be a late short or a late long. When you see these kind of momentous trends, while it's good to wait for confirmation, jumping in late like that can be potentially treacherous because again, the price is likely overextend at that range. And we'll talk about that here in a moment too. Last thing to look back at here would be just liquidation levels. We've already kind of referenced this, but I want to kind of add a few exchanges and make sure that we are kind of looking at the overall big picture. So in the last month, just to clarify, we got the largest amount of liquidation levels at about 28,300. Okay, so the price does come above this most recent high there at about 28,000. We will see the price shoot further. So again, even though in hindsight 28,000 would be a good place to consider shorting because that's like a double top, there is potential for the price to surge past that if we break above that level. So be careful taking a short just right at 28,000 because I mentioned that constantly changes, and honestly we want to reevaluate when we get there. But generally speaking at this point, just know a lot of liquidation at 28.3, 28.2. So if the price comes up to that level, we'll see it probably shoot to that 29, 30,000 range from there. Same story here as well at 24,800. So even though we have a lot of liquidation levels at about 25.5, the largest amount of volume based on the last month of worth of trading is at 24,800. Once again, if we come lower than that most recent low, then we'll see the price shoot down to somewhere in the 23.3 range, possibly in the 21,000 range. That's a distant reality. I'm not sold on the fact that we're going to see a retest of 21,000. That said, though, let's go ahead and jump on into what's going on here. Oh, quick little congratulations too, by the way. This is awesome news here. We took some nice trades here, of course, here from Algorand, that 22%. That took us about 2 weeks, right? So you got to keep in mind, some of our swing trades don't hit their targets right away. But what did hit their targets right away, all targets achieved. We hit all 5 profit targets. Like this blue Zell, we are at 163% profit in 9 days. So anyone who is potentially, part of that community, if you will, we made our monthly fee and then some. Okay, so again, awesome stuff. Congrats again to our community members there. Very, very well done. That was a nice little bonus there with just the way the market's been moving. But again, Blue Zell, really cool trade here. I actually make daily videos in this one as well. I'm going to jump on that here soon. I think we got in somewhere in the 11 or 12 cent range. All right, anyways, conversation for another day. Let's talk a little bit about the 1 day and work our way down. In fact, we are getting close. We could actually, we'll wait on the weekly. But typically at the end of the week, I like to kind of summarize what's going on with the weekly. But to quickly note here, just kind of give you perspective, we're still over the moving averages, the key level moving averages, but we're below the 200 right now again. Okay, so you got to keep in mind, being above the 50 is extremely important, but we do still have some resistance at the 28,000 range. Okay, so that 28,000 consistently reiterates itself. That's another reason why I think a short at that level might be a consideration. Once again, we got a lot of liquidation at 28,300, so if the price does hit 28,000, be mindful, we could see a very aggressive candle wake up to 29,000. So I've got alerts set all over the place for that 28,000 mark. As soon as we hit that range, I'm going to reevaluate, see if it's worth getting in for a short or a long. Likely a short when the price hits that liquidation squeeze up to about 29,000. Okay, so with the 1 day here on Bitcoin, we are once again just to kind of confirm here. This is this descending trend. We can see the 50-day SMA working its way down as that resistance level. Okay, so again, keep in mind 50-day SMA on the daily and the 200 on the 4-hour are both very synonymous in a lot of ways, where they kind of hold the price action in place. Right now, being up below that level effectively, we can consider that to be a resistance. And once more, we did see a slight bounce off here at 0.5 Fibonacci at 26,500. But that is once more where we see the most amount of shorts and longs accumulated in the last 24 hours. Okay, so what does that all mean? Well, RSI is above 50. This is positive. We don't get a bounce off 50 here on the RSI. We could see further downside. We can also see here that the MACD is starting to lose momentum. Okay, so the bottom line here is this little, recent momentous trend since the 11th of September is starting to fizzle out and come back down. It is coming down to test the 20-day SMA though. This is an important level, 0.382 on Fibonacci, 26,200 as a close approximate. That's a case in point where we should see the price action plateau and level out. We lose that level, I would expect the price to continue lower to retest that 25.5 range, possibly get some liquidations lower. But once more, this is pretty much par for the course here. So daily looks, I guess, average, if you will. It's a descending trend. We're getting rejected. Makes sense, but we got some key level supports. That said, on the 4-hour here, we can see once more this 200-day working its way right close to where the 20-day is on the 1 day. What that means for us here is that we got 0.382 effectively going to be working as a key level support. So the price does come in any lower. We shouldn't see much lower than 26,150. Let's take a look at overextension and see here. We're at a 5. We got a little bit of a reset. So we could see another 20 hours of continuation of the downside to retest that level. So to me, I'm going to be patient for a long at the 26,000 range, or of course, patient for a short at the 28,000 range, right? I don't like to kind of trade in these little in-betweens. This is a good case in point where taking some longs with some altcoins might be appropriate since Bitcoin might be bouncing, and we have that situation here. Now, what I mean by situation, so we take a look at Bitcoin dominance, we can see Bitcoin dominance is starting to level itself out, okay? And when Bitcoin dominance goes sideways, let's go ahead and take a look at our little cheat sheet here so you know. Again, that's in our education section. I pinned this message just to keep it simple. But Bitcoin dominance is essentially stabilizing right now, okay? Now, Bitcoin price is going down. So altcoin price is going down too with it. Right? We can kind of see that. Majority of vaults are getting hit right now. So what's going to happen next? Well, if Bitcoin dominance continues to stabilize and Bitcoin actually increases in value, we can start to see altcoins increase as well. Okay, so if we get that bounce off that 26,200 / 26,400 range for Bitcoin, we will start to see altcoins increase. So right now is a case in point where I'm going to start stacking some long positions for altcoins, specifically altcoins that are overextended to the downside, and kind of identifying which ones have certain breakout patterns. So let's talk about patterns here really quick, because it is important to recognize that Bitcoin is fulfilling some really nice patterns. In other words, I sent this out on my Twitter here recently, or Twitter X. It was just a couple days ago where I was mentioning that Bitcoin was printing a double top and a rising wedge pattern on the hourly. Okay, now keep in mind, patterns on the hourly are a little less reliable, but they're still very valid. That being said, though, this leading into the Fed meeting, when we had that kind of negative news, for lack of better terms, for the long-term big picture, the price inevitably came back down. Okay, so again, these little playouts here, if we look at the hourly, these double tops and the rising wedge effectively led to this downside. Okay, so what are we seeing right now? Well, we're not seeing a tremendous amount of patterns right now. All we saw was a recent descending, falling wedge effectively that broke to the upside. So unless we see another falling wedge, which could occur here soon, we don't have any magnificent, patterns kind of to rely on right now that are going to show us any indication what's going to happen next. Instead, we use our support levels at the 26,400 range to essentially kind of anticipate that next move. Okay, so again, I'm speculating we're going to see some bouncing points here. We also want to take a look at volume too, of course, and if you just to verify this here, I talked about this previously, how important it is. We see the most amount of volume at about 26,000. So while we could very well see an aggressive candlewick down to 25.5 to wipe out some of those long liquidation levels, we could very well see the price action stabilize here again and continue higher. So to me, it makes a lot of sense for the price to kind of bounce somewhere between now and the 26,000, 25.5 range for the next leg up. That would make the most amount of sense. Again, not 100% foolproof. That said, though, let's go ahead and summarize here. What's the hourly look like here? Are we overextended? Where are we at? Take a look at the hourly. We got overextended down to a 9. We're already kind of bouncing off this 0.5 Fibonacci retracement level. Once again, we saw that the most amount of aggregation here in the last 12 hours is right here at 26,400. A lot of shorts into the market right now. They're getting wrecked. And of course, a lot of longs are in the green right now. Okay. And why did they do that? Well, overextension plus 0.5 Fibonacci. That is an effectively positive area in which a long position could be considered. So with us being at 26,600 right now, unless the price pulls back a little bit further, I wouldn't say worry about a long or a short right now. To me, I'm more long biased at 26,000, roughly 26 to 26.2 range, and I'm more short biased right around the 27.5 to 28,000 range. That's kind of what I'm considering there. So I'm leaving a Bitcoin alone, not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole for a little while. I'm going to focus on some altcoins that are looking like they're ready to surge. We're going to start seeing a little bit more, or actually a lot more signals here in the next 24 hours, likely once my alerts start to trigger, and I think I already saw a couple this morning, so I'll go ahead and get on top of that again. Thank you so much for your patience. If you've been watching for a while and I disappeared for last week, once again, you can jump over to my community section and get some updates there. More important, it's probably best for you to jump over to our Discord. We got a phenomenal group of traders over here. A lot of fun to be able to kind of just figure things out together, right? You're not alone when you're in this environment. We've also got a Telegram and Twitter as well, obviously, if you are curious about that, whichever strikes your fancy. But generally speaking, looking forward to working with you. Thanks again so much for joining me here, and we'll see you in the next video. Take good care of yourself. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.